Welcome to Thoughts, Hoodwinked 2, Good versus Evil. And for anyone who hasn't watched the movie yet, A, I'm going to spoil absolutely everything, so, stay at your own peril. And B, yes, the 2 in the title is actually explained in the movie. And, putting an exclamation point in your title is a great way to annoy people who don't put the full title in what they've written and obsess over whether or not to let the autocorrect auto-capitalize the first word they put after writing in the title. Now, if you don't care about these disclaimers, or try to keep them short and relevant, put your mind to my video, you can skip right ahead to the section of your choice via the description box. I tried to talk very fast during the disclaimers, since a lot of it is very standard information. I'm not going to keep speaking this fast once I get into the video itself. This video contains spoilers, including for the first movie, and let's see, if I remember to put it there will be a link to my video on the first movie in the description box, and let's see, I forgot to put it in this document, but I think I gave the first one an 8 out of 10, and I stand by that. Now, I might bring up other movies, TV shows, or whatever. I'm not going to spoil them, or if I do, I'm going to warn before I do it, and what I usually do is, like, hold up an index finger, and then lower the index finger once I'm done spoiling, so you can just mute and skip ahead, if you want to avoid spoilers for it. Now, let's see. I might criticize some of the cartoon violence of this. That's purely because it is, it is a movie, I guess family movie rather than kids movie, but it is a movie that children should be able to see without it, like, scaring them, excessively at least. But, just FYI, I don't have a problem with violence and gore in general. The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies, and movies in general. I also love Cronenberg's The Fly, Videodrome, etc. And yeah, but I'm not gonna really compare this to those. There we go. I got there eventually. Grammar. And let's see. Now, I will not be swearing in this video since, basically, I'm not sure this video is going to be something that children could watch, but I do want it to be something that parents could watch that don't want to hear swear words. I am going to be discussing some topics that I don't think children would, yeah, my discussion is more for adults. So, let's see, oh, that's right, I gave the first Hoodwinked a 9 out of 10, so I did put it in the file, I just didn't put it at the top of it. Anyway, I record this as soon as I can get to the computer after watching a movie. You can go blind into this movie. You don't have to have watched the first one, but it does, basically the characters and their relationships, you are told about it in this. It's just that you better appreciate some of the, I would say, for example, in the first movie, you get very clear, you understand why Red and the Wolf don't really get along and don't want to work together, where in this, it can feel a little, you won't fully appreciate that if you only watch this. Now, this video is not a review, it's a series of, well, thoughts. Some of it is analysis, some of it is MST3K. There you go. I've been saying that word for like 10 years, 15 years, and, in the last 10 years, 11 years, soon, in YouTube videos, so I really should be able to say it. Anyway, MST3K, riff tracks, and other jokes. And yeah, so the first section is thoughts that I had while watching, in chronological order. You can think of it as a running commentary or live tweeting or the like. The second section is thoughts that I had before watching, including my responses to various YouTube videos, including trailers analysis, etc., DVD extras, and when applicable, the editing room, abridged script, and Outlaw Vern's review. I don't think those are in this one. I don't think either of them covered this one. And it's also the section for anything I thought of entirely on my own that wasn't in response to something and that I thought of, well, before watching. And let's see. Yeah, and in the final section I get into stuff I think is worthwhile to get into on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and Wikipedia. And before recording this vlog, I had read all but the spoiler stuff. And I've probably forgotten at least some of what I read by the time of recording. Prepared for these weeks ahead, sometimes a month or more. If you're not interested in the contents of all three sections, I invite you to only watch the ones you are interested in. And, you know, yeah, links in the description box. Now, sometimes I do regular reviews on things I make thoughts videos for, sometimes not. I try not to review films, games, or TV shows that fall into genres that I don't like. I realize an argument can be made in favor of talking about genres that you don't like, but it's not really what I want to do with these videos. I don't particularly like the idea of giving a negative review to something where I basically say, this movie is not the kind of thing that I would ever like, and because of that, it is a bad movie. That's not the kind of reviews I want to do. And obviously I'm not saying that that's the only kind of video you can do if it's not a genre you already like. But yeah, this, you know, I absolutely love the first movie, and I mean, this one, it could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse. I honestly feared that it would be a lot worse. Now, you know, if you're watching this and you're hoping I'm just going to rage about how bad a sequel this is compared to the first one, that's not the kind of video it's going to be. You know, I'm going to try to find, you know, I'm going to criticize some of the bad. I'm going to try to bring up some of the positives. Let's see. I mean, you know, instead of me saying a million times over this video, I'm just going to say once, I don't think this is as good as the first one. And just, yeah, there's no reason for me to find 100 different ways of saying that. I'm going to be comparing them, but I'm not every single time going to be saying the first one's better. Now, I got this on sale, so anything negative I say in this video is not out of bitterness. Also, do not feel like the movie wasted my time. Nobody forced me to watch it or to make this video. It's not that I'm upset at how it compares to the first one, or other movies like it. I don't have some kind of personal vendetta against anyone who worked on making it. To the best of my ability, the negative things I say in this video are fair criticisms based on budget, when it came out, what it was trying to achieve, etc. Now, I watched some relevant YouTube videos and special features on DVD Blu-ray before doing this video. And this is my first viewing. You know, watching it today, right now, right before now, vlogging about it. And I've watched the first maybe 5 times by now. Now, let's see. But yeah, you know, I would be criticizing this even if I didn't think highly of the first one. And, let's see. Yeah. So, my own quote-unquote film critic rating for this, I guess ultimately I'm gonna have to go with, see, it's difficult because I want to be completely fair, but also, yeah, I think ultimately at the very end of the day, I'm going with a 6 out of 10. And my personal rating is I guess a 7 out of 10, yeah. It made me laugh more times, you know, considering how many times it made me laugh. I really don't feel like it would be right to give it less than that. Now, oh right, sorry, recently I've been doing more, like, I've been trying to do that thing where you give a more movie-specific rating instead of only saying, let's see, I can think of something quick. I give this movie 6 botched HEA missions out of 10. There we go. I got there. And it brings us to the first section, notes taken while watching. The movie literally opens with the words, "Once upon a time." I appreciate that. Which in window? Which window? Affirmative. What? As I do wish that they didn't keep reusing that. They do it maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's a bit of a theme with this movie. If they think, there are several jokes in this that they use, sometimes twice, sometimes I think there was at least one where it was like 4 times. I'm gonna try to, bring them all up as I do the video, as each time I get to one of them in this first section. I think I noted all of them there, and yeah, I do think that's too bad. The first one didn't really over, like, they did similar jokes, but they would always think of at least slightly different way to do it. But with which the or so yeah, actually, sorry, I guess that is slightly different. Which in window, which window, and then later said we're looking for a which. Okay, fair enough. That is slightly different. Yeah, but there are several jokes where they say way too similar things, and it's essentially the same joke. They just change the words around it, and yeah, that really feels like, yeah. Roger Goose, I'll take a gander. And they do another joke like in the first one where they translate what Twitchy is saying to this kind of fancy, really polite, wordy speak. I didn't really mind the jokes where it's basically, you liked this in the first one, so here it is again. I I feel like they could have gotten a lot worse with it. The Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I don't think. Just briefly, because I'm pretty sure I didn't note it anywhere. When they go to the club, the Giants, is it called the Giants Club? I forget what it. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Giants Club. Some of the characters from the first one are dancing in the background. I think one of them is like is that a polar bear or something? No, wait, that doesn't really make sense for the setting. But it's got like white fur at least. I think that one was at the. Was it maybe one of the skiers at the competition in the first movie? And another one is, I think his character name is Chief Grizzly. I think it was the one voiced by the bear voiced by Exhibit. And I just realized they still had him in his uniform, didn't they? Would a cop really do that? Go to like a dance, go to a club and dance still in uniform? Wouldn't they put on casual? He's not there on business, is he? Because it's kind of unprofessional to. Anyway, I think they probably didn't want to do another. You know, they didn't want to redesign him. They just picked it. Yeah. I like the Looney Tunes bit with Twitchy touching. In this case, it's the claws, because like, he's in the middle and the claws are like, and he touches the claws individually. In general, like touching something dangerous without looking at it before something happens. Very Looney Tunes. Come to think of it, I guess it could have. That's the kind of thing that could also happen in a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Cartoon logic, I guess, is what I should call it. Take a bite at a time, and they start eating the chocolate was. 6.5 minutes, and Granny has already called Wolf dog twice. They're running out of material already. I mean, they could come up with more than one, you know, let's see. I mean, I can't come up with something off the top of my head right now, and I didn't think to write anything down, but there's, you could use other words that mean dog, or that are like refer to like, yeah, like dogs get ticks, right? What if one of the times she said dog and the other time she said calm your ticks or something? It's, and yeah, and I forget what the first thing is, but something something bad happens to Japheth, and he's singing what's happening to him as it's happening. That was a little amusing. I personally didn't. I mean, I'm torn on Japheth, because if I had to choose one thing from the first movie, one thing that I would definitely want to leave in, everything else can be changed at least somewhat. I mean, I would want it to be changed by people who knew what they were doing. But you have to. There's one thing you can't change. It would probably be Japheth. And this movie does have much more of him. He appears more times. He sings more times. I mean, I guess overall he probably sings for longer in the first movie than if you combine all the times he sings in this. I don't think it comes to as much as he sings in the first one. But yeah, overall I liked seeing him in this, and I mean, other than like giving him a completely different. I mean, at the end of the first one, he's delivering goodies using the mine cart, so that Red doesn't have to do that job anymore, and he seems very happy to do it. And she wanted to get away from that kind of thing, and by the end of the movie, Granny has accepted that, so she's not pushing Red to do that anymore. So they had to think of some, and I don't know that he would really have fit in at the HEA. Yeah, I personally do think that I honestly liked it, but I definitely agree with the reviewers who say that it doesn't feel like a sort of natural progression from the first one. It is like, why would he be doing that? Like, why? He was popular in the first one, so they had to bring him back, and I think some of them compare him to like Scrat from Ice Age. I have no idea. I've never watched those movies, but I'm just putting it out there for anyone who has watched those movies, is watching this video, and hadn't heard that criticism before. But yeah, the it doesn't feel like it's the same. It's still Japheth in that he's singing all the time, but it's not really like, yeah, it's a very different kind of situation. He's nowhere near the place he was in the first one. I don't know. I mean, I guess at the very start of the movie, we don't know for sure how far away he is from the minecart, but a lot of the movie he spends, you know, he's several times we see him in the city, and yeah. But I did find it funny how every time, like the first time, he is basically he seems like he's, you know I'm not sure he's necessarily far away from where he was in the first. Maybe it's his day off and he went for a walk or something. But each time after that, he's singing about that he's now in a place that must be safe, because the last place certainly wasn't safe. And then, the last time he sings about how he's headed to a place that's going to be safe. Although, like, okay, so the first time he's in the woods, he gets hurt. The second time he's in the city, and there he's singing about how he's injured. He's just walking around the city. He doesn't really have a plan. But then the third time he's back in the woods, and he sings that now he can't get hurt like he was in the city, but that doesn't work because the first time he was hurt, he was in the woods. So anyway, but I do like that there at the end, he's like, I'm going to, don't worry, I'm not going to say, not in this video, I think I did in the old one. And what can I say? It was a different time. I know, it was like less than 3 years ago by now, but anyway. I'm not sure I'm ever going to sing in video again, don't worry. And at the same time, I'm not making any promises. I'm not going to sing in this video. Anyway, what I was getting at was that the last time he's going to China, because he, he keeps getting hurt here, and as he's singing, he again gets hurt, and yeah. Let's see, and he does opera just briefly as, yeah. Anyway, oh, that's like a reference, maybe. I don't know. Wait, no, opera's like Italian, right? And because I was thinking, yeah, classical music would make sense for the giant German kids, but opera can't be a reference to, can it? Oh wait, it's because like it's that thing of it's not over till the fat lady sings, and they're fat because of the, and so opera, I guess, is the joke. Anyway, but yeah, I enjoyed his, yeah, and I guess that's pretty much. I think I saw others say that, it was nice to see the city, and yeah, I agree. I like seeing the world outside of the woods in this one. I'm not saying it was a bad thing that it wasn't in the first one. I'm glad the first one is as contained as it is, but I'm also glad that this expands the world. And as they're flying off, Granny is trying to arrest the witch, and she says, "You have a right to a fairy godmother. If you cannot afford a fairy godmother, one will be appointed to you. You have a right to," and then like they fly through something or something. Some flying lessons. We're less than 8 minutes in, and Nikki Flippers has twice been like, mammals. Again, just it. There are other ways to say, like, maybe if one of the times he said mammals and the other time he's like, crap, what is it, what's the place, I know you can't answer me, I'm not asking you to, I'm just thinking out loud, filling dead air. Let's see, frogs live in a, crap, I forget what it's called. It could be it could be a fairy tale reference instead. If one of the times he said mammals, and then the other time he was like, why couldn't I find that princess to kiss me instead of getting this job or something, I get it. It's a joke, and he's expressing frustration at the current situation, but there's multiple ways of saying that. Yeah. Anyway, and I did find it a little funny. The wolf keeps saying far, far away because it takes the camera so long to fly over to where it is, because it really is far away. And again, I feel like with some of these jokes, it's just they have a good joke, but sometimes they will deliver it a little, the delivery will lack restraint. I feel like he should have just said far, far away, like maybe 3 times. As it is, I think he maybe says it 5 times, and after the 4th one, Twitchy is like, I get it. And then, when Verushka and Granny are talking, Verushka explains their past together, and Granny interrupts her and says, I remember I was there, why are you telling me this? And that's funny, because it's such a trope. We've seen this so many times. There are probably thousands of movies out there where where the evil character, yeah, sometimes it's the evil character explaining their motivations of good character. Sometimes it's two characters who agree on the goal, who are repeating, and in many of these cases, it's for the audience's benefit. It's not that the two characters in the scene don't already know, and having a character acknowledge that is a clever fourth wall breaking joke. But then, I think that the delivery should have gone that right after Granny interrupts her with that, Marushka should have said, "Shut up, let me do this," and then just went on. But instead, she says something to the effect of, "Shut up, let me do this," and then she's like, "Let me think. Where was I?" And then she goes over the stuff she already did. She doesn't say exactly the same things, but still, I feel like that should have been, yeah. I don't think I noted it anywhere, but it was kind of funny when when Hansel and Gretel are laughing up in the dark castle, and like the let me think, was it TDT, the Dark Towers, maybe? They're up in the Dark Towers and they're laughing, and I think it's Hansel who, there's this brief break in laughing, and then Hansel's like, I don't know why we're laughing, and then yeah, and then they continue laughing. I think maybe it would have been funnier if they just stopped laughing and then it just goes to the next scene instead of them starting laughing. Anyway, but again, it is a funny, because it's such a trope, and it's like, why is this so funny to you? Why are you laughing about your evil plan? And really, it's because it's it's creepy to hear someone laugh like that. That's basically it. But it's not like it's it doesn't really seem like something that is very, like, it doesn't come very naturally, you know. I do appreciate that Red did get to go travel to faraway places just like she wanted to in the first one. And the ogre talks like an effeminate gay stereotype, trying to make people laugh at that kind of thing. We're supposed to find it funny that someone big and strong speaks like that. The contrast there. I don't have a problem with putting effeminate, traits like that in a movie. I just don't think that it should be. I think it would be fine if it was empowering, but as it is, the character. I mean, ultimately, Red does still win the fight, and it's clearly the punchline is that someone who looks intimidating speaks in an effeminate way, when it could have been the reverse reveal. It could have been someone big and tough defeating someone, and then we get like effeminate stuff. So I don't know, I guess that would also be making fun of. What I'm saying is, I can't necessarily come up with a good way of doing it, but I feel like I've seen it done. I've seen movies that empower. Well, what's it called? Legally Blonde. That movie is at least somewhat empowering for the kind of, I mean, she was never dumb. The character Elle in the first movie is not dumb. I forget if they make her dumb in the second one. I'd like you to try to forget that I did just inadvertently admit to watching both of the Legally Blonde movies. But in the first movie, she's not stupid. She just focuses on things that a lot of people don't consider worth a lot. But if you look at the things, don't worry, I'm not going to be spoiling those movies. If you think Legally Blonde is at all for you, I personally would recommend it. Yeah, I really need to stop talking about Legally Blonde now, because I'm just digging myself deeper. What I'm saying is that movie is ultimately empowering for, I guess it's a sorority girl type, really. Yeah, the sorority girl type, the character who's thought of as a dumb blonde, legally blonde. It is right there in the title. And yeah, this isn't that. Okay, I laughed when the training sequence has two of the fighters kick one fighter. It's like there's like three standing next to each other, and the one in the middle is a little heavy, so the other two keep accidentally hitting her. Not intentionally, but just they're told, kick left, kick right, and one of them, when one of them kicks left, they hit her, and when the other kicks right, she hits her. So like that was I found it funny. I like the reveal with the recipe. Like they open it and Red is staring at it, and it's got the golden glow like it's the Pulp Fiction suitcase, and she's like, "How'd you make it invisible?" And they're like, "Invisible," and then they see that it's gone. That was like, for a few seconds, you know, yeah, because going into the movie you don't know that it's been stolen. So that's a great reveal. There at the end of the movie, Nikki says that since the HEA is, they need new staff. Then he says that they're gonna get staff from the Sisters of the Hood. Do they, like, I mean, does that mean that technically he should have been able to call them for help during the movie? I guess maybe he's talking about as they're being trained to graduate from the Sisters of the Hood, then they can be agents. Okay, fair enough. Although, should the teachers maybe work as? Oh wait, they're like looking for the recipe, right? So they're not. They're on alert already. Yeah, it's messy trying to make that kind of thing. Yeah, I do appreciate that they thought of that because it really would be like, why are they not just getting? Why are why isn't the HEA sending more men to the TCT? That kind of thing. That's, and it is a little, you know, the first movie ends with them joining the HEA, and then the second movie, the HEA is put out of business, so it's still just you know, I mean, they don't even add anyone, they just change the dynamic. In this, Red and Wolf have to work together, where in the first one, they weren't really paired up very much at all. But let's see. But yeah, ultimately, I do appreciate that, in the first one, Granny helps take care of the thing, and then this one, she's captive. I do think this does a pretty good job of, the HEA is put out of business, excuse me, Granny is taken hostage, so so it ends up being about Red and Wolf, and Red hasn't finished her training at Sisters of the Hood, and in fact, we see that she fails a test because of the, Back to the Future Part 2 Marty McFly chicken thing. And I do appreciate that there at the end, we thought that she had been tricked by them, that she had fallen for that one, but really she had grown over the course of the movie, and she was no longer. It just, I feel like it would be because Hansel and Gretel never find out during the movie that she has that. I mean, that she has that issue. I feel like it would have been stronger if some point along the movie they had found out about that. Can't be Varushka because she hasn't been at Sisters of the Hood for a long time. Yeah. I personally really enjoyed Joan Cusack and her performance. I laugh at most of the jokes, of the joke lines she has. I like the part where she doesn't laugh, she says, ha 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 ha. I don't remember exactly how she delivers it, but she says the word ha ha instead of laughing. And there are a bunch of sheep working at the control center of HEA, and Wolf wants to eat them. And is that Little Bo Peep? I'm sorry, I don't know exactly for sure, but I feel like because they reference her in the first one, and that's a and in the first one it's the sheep referencing that. Anyway, the I forget if I said in the old video, but it bears repeating. In the first movie, the wolf, when talking to the Jazz Palmentary sheep, is literally a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's But yeah, the wolf is like, I'm not saying they can't work here. I'm just saying they look delicious. And Little Bo Peep like slaps him across the face, and yeah. I do appreciate that the mystery's underway so early. The first one had to establish world and territory, but sorry, characters. Sorry, these notes were voice typed. But so far, almost every character in this we met in the first one, so they can jump directly into solving the mystery. The characters are already, you know, well aware of the mystery and very actively looking into the mystery. In the first one, I mean, the several of the characters are aware of the Goody Bandit, but the them realizing who it is happens late, and then they just go to the lair, and that's it. You know, I love it, but I'm just saying it's not the biggest, most difficult to figure out mystery. Where in this, it really does have like, yeah, they start they start investigating right away. They have clues. They have they go around to a bunch of different places, talk to different people, get new leads to follow up on, and all this stuff. I really appreciate that. This is straight up a mystery. We are watching them uncover the truth over the course of the movie, where a lot of the first one is Rashomon, and that's one of the things I love about it. But I'm glad they didn't just try to do Rashomon again. I really don't think that would have worked. Maybe a spiritual successor to the first movie, but not an actual sequel. You'd need to have different characters and maybe a new like core plot for it to revolve around. A big part of the first one is it takes Red Riding Hood and says, let's change every single character. Let's make the innocent ones be really active and badass. The you know let's make the one hero of the story, the woodsman, into a bumbling buffoon who's not even a woodsman at all. And let's take the big scary wolf and make him not even a little threatening once you actually know him. Red being scared of him, it's a trick of the lighting, basically. Now, overall, I thought that Hayden Panettiere was fine as Red. I don't. I like her fine. I haven't seen her in that much. I think Heroes and Scream 4 are it. And I like her in those. I think she does a good job in both. And this, but she is not Anne Hathaway. She's not quite as just the Anne Hathaway, among other things. I feel like Hayden Panettiere is trying to do the same sort of thing, but sorry, it's because I was thinking. Remember to compare the Woodsman also. That's where the he came from. Sorry. The I get distracted easily. You may be able to tell. The I'm trying to figure out whether or not I should go ahead and say what I'm thinking. I'm just going to go ahead and really quickly say what I'm thinking. At the risk of digging even deeper, I think this is going to be the last thing I say about the Legally Blonde movies in this video, but I recommend the first one. I do not recommend the second one. The second one is very, very bad. No matter how much you love the first one, there's very little of value in the second one. Anyway, you know, both Hayden and Anne, which, both of them do, you know, there's this, Red is sometimes snarky, Red is sometimes really sweet and charming and such, you know, and I don't know, just Anne Hathaway is incredibly good at it, you know, and like I said in the video for the first one, I haven't seen her in that much. I'm not sure I've seen her in, I mean, other than the first Hoodwinked, I think, wait a second, no, oh right, yeah, she's in Brokeback Mountain, so I've seen her in that. And she's got some cynicism in parts of her performance there as well. So anyway, but when I think Anne Hathaway, the thing I've seen the most times that she's in is The Dark Knight Rises, and yeah, sometimes she's like sweet and charming, just all honey, and then the material is what I'm saying. You know, she, like, listening to her is like eating honey. What is that metaphor? I've never understood why people say, oh, her voice is like honey. I mean, honey doesn't really make a sound. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to invoke here. And other times she's very snarky and sort of, you know, sharp. And she puts that to good use in the first Hoodwinked. And I think Hayden Panettiere is trying to do basically the same thing at point, you know, I mean, the character's written more or less the same. And she's just not quite as good as Anne, and I feel bad, because, again, I like her. I have nothing against her. And it's not like I'm some Anne stan, you know, so... Sorry, that's Stan as in the Eminem reference, not Stan as something else. Let's see, but... yeah, ultimately, it doesn't bother me that much, and I don't think the movie loses a ton. Like, it has bigger problems, you know. Now, and they go into the club, and there's a talking harp, so now objects can be alive in this universe, in addition to animals. Are you trying to play my harp? And the giant slaps away the... I forget what it's called, so I'm gonna go with Warrior Unicorn, and he bounces around like a pinball. Who the Mother Goose? That's not a terrible... I mean, I'm pretty sure the parents don't want the children repeating that, but, you know, it's a decent way to sneak in yeah. The Wolf's convention jokes aren't too bad, you know, yeah. And Twitchy jumping around the restaurant, sorry, the club, whatever, is kind of funny, and just, yeah, you know, it's a bigger version of him jumping around in the first one. And, you know, at one point he lands on, like, a, you know, what's it called? There's a waiter going around with, like, glasses of wine or something, and someone tries to pick up wine, and picks up Twitchy and tries to, like, drink from him. That was kind of funny. Let's see. And the giant says that, you know, he ate Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. That's kind of funny. And yeah, you know, here's at least one joke that they keep repeating. Let's see, yeah, Jimmy Tenfinger said something about the harp singing at least twice. Or wait, yeah, sorry. He says harp sing at least once. I think the harp himself says sing at least once. Maybe twice, but yeah, definitely too many. London Bridge Asylum, when your sanity is falling down. I love seeing Boingo again. And the Clarice joke wasn't bad. Hello, Clarice. Who's Clarice? Oh, that's her over there. Enjoy the book, dear. Yeah. And you know, you didn't say the magic word, abracadabra. That's not. I know that is the magic word. And see, that's the time I feel like they did the joke right. You know, having him start to, obviously he means you didn't say please, but abracadabra is the magic word, and he's like, that is the magic word, isn't it? And I'm glad they didn't push that any further, like they did with the far, far away, the wolf saying far, far away, and Verushka trying to remember where she got to, and explaining to Granny. The buddy comedy portion of the movie is very obvious and uninspired, like other reviewers have pointed out. I mean, if this movie had been made 25 years earlier, the buddy comedy thing would have played out basically the same. And that's kind of sad, that they didn't really come up with anything new to do with it. I do appreciate that the power dynamic between Granny and Verushka keeps shifting unpredictably. You never know exactly which of them will be in power when a scene starts, and it might change during the scene. Granny's escape attempt is very cool. I like her using, like, cooking stuff for getting out. She picks the lock with one of the cocoa staffs or whatever, and she blows flour off her hand to in order to see the lasers. And about 33 minutes into the movie, so almost halfway, the twist is revealed. Hansel and Gretel are actually in charge, not Verushka. Why are you telling me this? I was there. You really practiced this speech. And Verushka says she invented poisoned apples. And what was the second thing? I forget. Could you repeat the middle thing? Anyway. And a way to turn men into frogs. And we see, so I guess every frog in this universe looks exactly like Mickey Flippers, or did she go around getting suits for them? But yeah. But that was pretty funny. And then one of them is like, you should have seen what she did to the cats. I like the montage of Red trying to find the right DCT. And the Disney joke was kind of fun. Like, what was it? Disgustingly cute toys. That's pretty accurate, yeah. And you've got the Disney font on at least part of the word disgustingly. The mouse beggar has a bad leg because he stepped in a mouse trap. That's pretty dark for a kid's film. I mean, like, what are the kids gonna think the next time, they see someone putting out a mouse trap? But I mean, maybe the movie is vehemently anti-mouse trap, I guess. Sorry, Dark Castle Towers. That's what it's called. Yeah. DCT. The route to Dark Castle. So, yeah. The route there is long and full of danger. Oh, wait, there it is. My bad. Now, again, that was funny. Great, like, expectation subversion. That are going to come through the doors and the windows. We have so many windows, and I think some of the windows have tiny doors in them. They send in the pigs, and we see the map of the HEA that shows the attack, and it looks like Pac-Man. And no matter what channel Wolf watches on the TV, they're all criticizing him for being a wolf, for being an unreliable partner. So Twitchy was with 2 female squirrels at once. I feel like they didn't have to go that adult with that joke. It could have been just one. huff and we puff and we blow your house up. How did you make them so mad? It's a long story, I'll tell you later. So he really did try and eat the three little pigs after destroying their houses, I guess? I mean, it's possible that he has a dark past. I'm not sure we've ever really been told about that. And then he, you know, realized that getting a job as a reporter was more ethical. Depends on what kind of reporter, obviously. Let's see. It's pretty funny that Japheth is like singing, nothing can happen here. I'm singing nothing, and then he does get hurt because it's like, I look, whatever's up there trying to hurt me, you have to hurt me as I'm singing that nothing can hurt me. Otherwise, this doesn't work. Okay, let's try this again. And very, very Looney Tunes. I appreciate seeing Looney Tunes jokes be pulled off. This came out in 2011. That's, yeah. Great news! My doctor says I'm gonna live, and then he gets smushed. That is way too dark for a kid's movie. I really feel like they should come up with more kid-friendly swear words. They keep saying muffins over and over. I think they say it 3 or 4 times, and in a fairly short amount of time, too. And we see that Twitchy and Wolf survived because there were ejector seats. And then they disguised themselves as pigs with the gas mask. And I like how ridiculously, like, it's so obvious that they're not, Wolf is way too big to be a pig. Did not mean for that to rhyme. And Twitchy's way too little. And yeah, since the HEA has been defeated, Wolf and Twitchy are the only backup for Red. I'm not gonna lie, I did immediately think of a Team America World Police. Don't worry, I'm not gonna be making references to that other than, once again, in case there are any parents watching this video. 1 second. Let me think. Right, when oh, right, that's kind of a spoiler for that movie. I guess, crap. There's a thing near the end of that movie that I was reminded of during this movie. Let's go with that. And Hansel forgives the pigs because it's about fake beards. Who can resist that? That was legitimately fun. The fake beards thing was kind of funny. Wolf keeps using it, and Red is like, what is with that beard? Who are you trying to pose as? Santa? Hey, Santa gave me that beard, okay? So Santa is real in this universe as well, and Wolf knows him, and got a fake beard from him? You're not telling me Santa's beard is fake, right? Because there's only so much bubble bursting I can handle for one movie. I'm still trying to recover from realizing that Jack from Jack and the... Crap, I don't remember the title of the story, sorry. That he got eaten by the giant. Anyway, the beanstalk, Jack and the Beanstalk, that's it. And now I'm trying not to think of that Mickey Mouse game where you also face a giant. Okay, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Let me think. Right, fake beards. The wolf wasn't really trying to pretend that the beard was real. He was just saying, hey, look at this example of a fake beard. Would you like to buy a beard as fake as this one? And yeah, and near the end, one of the pigs is like, I'm starting to suspect you don't even really sell fake beards. I like the bit where Verushka keeps trying to convince Granny to bake, and basically, like, let me think. The Verushka says, "Bake for me." No, and it's like, you didn't say the magic word. Please, please bake, and she still won't. And yeah, is Kirk wearing an Elvis version of what he wore in the first movie? I mean, that's kind of funny. Yeah, and we meet the four other yodelers who are all trained mercenaries, and I like like for just a second I was like, if they're so good, why aren't they HEA? Oh right, they quit to become yodelers. That was their dream, just like Kirk. This is a four-man yodel team, all of whom had a dream of becoming yodelers, all of whom worked as something else before that. So that was, yeah. I think it was a good idea to minimize Kirk's role. I'm not sure there would have been that much room for him in this movie. In the first one, they got a lot of jokes out of, basically, like, the joke with him is German stuff is funny to Americans. So he yodels, he sells schnitzels, he has an accent, and all this stuff. And yeah, it worked really well in the first movie, but I don't know what they would have even had him do in this one. I mean, he didn't really show much of an aptitude for solving mysteries in the first one, so yeah, I wouldn't want him removed from the first one, but I don't think that, and he didn't join the HEA at the end of the first one. He became a yodeler, just like his dream, and the yeah, so, and I think it was a good way of bringing him in, that we need muscle, and so they go and find him, and he explains that the other members of the yodel, and you could wonder, if he's working with former mercenaries who are incredible, why didn't he tell the HEA? Well, because he's kind of stupid. He's not that smart of a character, so it's completely in line with his character to only, you know, yeah. Heidi's hogging all the pigs. That's kind of funny, yeah. I agree with those who say that Heidi Klum did a really great job at playing Heidi. I Yeah, I've never had a problem with her, but I didn't really think of her as, like, I mean, she's first and foremost a model, as far as I understand. I'm not 100% certain if I have seen her act, but she did a good job in this. Yeah, she doesn't have that many lines, but she was funny. And Red and Wolf split up, and anyone with an age and or an IQ in the double digits knows exactly where this is going. I appreciate the animator's ability to make Hansel and Gretel look innocent some of the time and pure evil the rest of the time. I mean, when they're, like, mouth wides into a hideous grin, just really very effective. As, yeah, Luke, trust the Force. Sorry, wrong hero quote. For a second, it's like, why is there all that fire? And then, oh, I was like, oh, I guess it's for effect. But then we realized, no, that's because it's an extreme close up of the oven. It's kind of weird when the wolf kept intentionally smashing Twitchy into the elevator buttons. I get that it's a reference to where in the first Granny did something similar, but the wolf would not have done something like this in the first movie. It's inconsistent writing. I feel like they made him stupid in this, when the first one he really wasn't stupid. Sadly, it is, a lot of, it's easy to make stupid people funny, but So sometimes, characters will be written as stupid even when it doesn't really make that much sense. He seemed a very smart person in the first one. Sorry, canine, not person. And the um, let's see, right, yeah, crap. Give me a second. I'm almost there. The My train of thought is on track. No one's gonna switch the track on me suddenly. I'm filling dead air until I remember what I was going to say. In general, I didn't think that the elevator bit was all that. Like, yeah, the ending when the elevator comes up and the doors open and the wolf and Twitch, you see them, and the wolf's like, "What did we miss?" That was funny, but the rest of the elevator stuff really wasn't funny. There was one where they were like bouncing around. Why? Wasn't the elevator just moving slowly normally? Like, I don't know what was the deal with the elevator and a couple of other things. They were like really desperate to come up with jokes, and they didn't manage to come up with good ones. Honestly, I can't help but wonder if they got most of the movie done and then or they were basically done with the script, and then like a producer just bursts through the door into the writers room and says, you only have a few more. You have to have like 10% more jokes by tomorrow. By tomorrow the script has to be done, but you need to add 10% more jokes than you have right now. And that's how we got all these repeats, because clearly they have a lot of ideas. There are a lot of different jokes in the movie, but then every so often there'll be a joke that they just repeat over and over. I feel like the giant spider just about hits the exact right balance between being something that kids would be scared of, but not to the point that they can't finish watching the movie, but also something that adults would like. It doesn't look like, yeah. Someone get a really big shoe. I appreciate that the spider remained, it never got like silly. They never gave it a silly voice or had it defeated in a goofy way or something. Like, near the end, it stops being scary, but yeah. After that, it's cool. It's not. Yeah. Despite everything, Granny still saves Baruchka. I appreciate the message for young children, maybe especially girls, about being yourself, not having to be the same as your ancestors, even if they are incredible. With Red being told by, I guess I should call her Abigail, that you don't have to be, you just be you. I gotta admit, Hansel and Gretel chucking cars at Red, that was pretty cool. That was legitimately like, they do a pretty good job of coming up with kind of cool action that they can get away with in a kids movie, which works best if you pretend that all of those cars were abandoned, because otherwise, holy crap, yeah. I mean, once they saw Hansel and Gretel moving, they might have fled their car. That makes sense. I mean, both of these movies do also have cars crashing. It just like, I saw a video review of the first movie where they're like, Red just killed that person by the magazine landing on the windshield. It's possible, though I'm not sure it's very probable, that there's more than one version of this movie. But I rewatched the first one just yesterday, and no, I did not only decide to review this one just so I had an excuse to watch the first one again. I don't need to come up with excuses. I have a very easy time justifying watching the first movie again. There's a distinct, like, the moment that, right after the car crashes, like, you see Red and she's like, oh, what? Did I just cause a crash? And then you hear the person clearly yell out, I'm okay. I'll walk. So no, she did not kill someone. It's anyway. Now let's see. Yeah, and they have the joke where like the car is balancing, and when one of them walks, it'll like teeter totter. Is that what it's called? I think you know what I'm trying to say. And yeah, it was just. I just wish they didn't make the wolf so stupid to do these jokes, because he's really not stupid in the first one. He seems very smart. He does manage to. I mean, the stupidest thing he does in the first movie is. Like, in the first movie, it works each time he disguises himself. In this one, he wants to disguise himself even when it clearly isn't working. I just don't get the sense that that's, like, I mean, in the first one, I guess. Okay, so fair enough. Him disguising himself as Granny didn't work. Let's see. I guess that's the one thing they're basing off, because it made like he decides that maybe Red and Granny are the Goody Bandit, or yeah, are the Goody Bandit together, and I mean he overhears Red say some really incriminating stuff. I I don't know. He really doesn't seem that stupid in the first one. And yeah, and there's the thing about how, when he's talking to the guy in the animal costume, he's like, yeah, your boss, Kenny sent Kenny, your boss, Kenny, he sent me. You mean Earl? That's exactly what Earl said. Okay, so that's a little stupid maybe, but that's basically it. Other than that, he's smart. He's just not scary. He's not very wolf-like. He's, I mean, he basically, yeah, yeah, he's fast and smart. Like, if you were to, basically the joke is almost that he's the wrong kind of animal for the personality he has. Like, if he were, crap, he should be like a deer maybe or something, because he's perceptive and fast. Which he shouldn't be a wolf because he's not scary and he's not. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what he eats, but he doesn't seem like. I don't. He doesn't come across as very scary in the movies, but here in the second one, they made him really stupid, and I just don't think that was. I don't know. I feel like it was the easy way to go. Again, I get it. They made him. I don't know that. They also made him kind of obsessed with the fact that Red left to get secret training. Did that, like, I mean, the first one, he is kind of obsessed with her, but that's because he thinks that she's a criminal. Yeah, in general, they didn't really know what to do with the wolf in this movie, did they? Excuse me. Now, but it was slightly amusing when, because Wolf walks closer, then the others have to walk closer as well for the balance to work out, and then it all ends up getting decided by him throwing the paper away from the gum. That was a little funny. And again, I feel like they did an okay job delivering. I mean, that is one of the big problems with this movie. The delivering of the jokes, some of the time, is just not very good. The giant spider wasn't really evil, but just needed a friend. And what is it? Which Verushka calls it Bitsy, which is, yeah, like itsy bitsy spider, I guess. I think that's got to be what it is. Which I guess suggests that, because I think itsy bitsy spider means that it's tiny, but I guess according to Verushka in this movie, Bitsy is like its name instead. Or does that mean that it's that Itsy it's Itsy is Itzy is its first name, and Bitsy, so its name is Itsy Bitsy, and she just refers to it as Bitsy. I mean, they did just meet. I guess it's respectful to refer to it by its last name. Or maybe it's like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I feel like the Bajorans said the first name last, but I forget. It's been a while. And Red and Wolf finally appreciate each each other as partners. I appreciate that they use teamwork there at the end to get rid of the two German kids, since it's clear they can't do it entirely on their own. And yeah, that was a neat, yeah. And we get the expectation subversion of them appealing to her ego. And we see that they're defeated by being tricked into eating more truffles. You have a right to a treadmill. Did I dream the following, or did they actually say, did Hansel and Gretel say that they turned evil because they were never allowed to eat candy? That turned them evil? I mean, that's... Is that like a... I mean, I'm sure the parents are gonna love that if their kids start saying, you have to give us candy, otherwise we'll turn evil. After watching the movie, but okay. And the movie... what was that saying? Yeah, and the movie ends on the threat of a third movie, which, you know, it's been 9 years now, so it's probably not gonna happen. I'm pretty sure they're not working on making a third. And yeah, you know, this one came out like 6 years after the first one, and I think this one had actually been slowed down. You know, they had actually it wasn't gonna be a full 6 years, and the first one was also gonna come out in like 2003 or 4, and then there was like some kind of delay. Anyway, yeah, and you know, we hear over the radio that there's someone leading 10,000 rats. I'm really impressed by whoever managed to count to 10,000 when all of them are running, but whatever. I think is that like, excuse me, is that the Pied Piper? It's definitely one of those fairy tale characters, but yeah, that's a cool kind of, yeah. So Red gets to drive the car, but she tells the wolf that they'll buy disguises on the way. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Red helps with the martial arts abilities, but if not for the wolf, how would they have gotten inside the castle? You know, when she tried getting into the castle, let's see, let me think. Wait, how did that? Let's see. Red was like trying to get into the castle through a window, and then she fell. Oh, is that when the wolf and then the wolf breaks her free and gets them in using a disguise, I think. Yeah. And they actually end on Jack the Goat being hurt yet again. I'm not gonna lie, it cracked me up. It was a really funny joke to end on. That like, he's at this point, he's doing whatever he can to stay out of trouble. So he's like hiding under a manhole cover, and he opens it just a little to look up, and then they drive, and he like looks around to see them driving, and just it drives onto him, and he screams, and it goes to the credits. That was pretty funny. I think the movie did a decent job of keeping my interest until the end credits started rolling. The plot moves along nicely without going so fast that you can't keep up. I think it worked well for the movie that the villains already knew about the good guys and were in fact ready for them a lot of the time. This is, of course, something that often happens in spy movie sequels, but again, I feel like it worked here. I don't think it always works in spy movie sequels, but it's a way to up the ante. You know, you can, you know, Boingo is a criminal mastermind, but he didn't outsmart Nikki and the, you know, he. I mean, hypothetically, if Boingo was even smarter, he should have knocked everyone unconscious in the house when he went to steal the goodie. Like, right after he left, he should have used knockout gas or something to slow them down. But because he doesn't, they all realize who he is and get there. And yeah, they use disguises and, you know, Mission Impossible stuff to get there, but they get there. You know, where in this, they knew that Granny would get close to them. They were ready for Red. You know, they had a trap for the Wolf and Twitchy. Just all this, yeah. I appreciate that part of the reason the good guys win is that they accept someone who made mistakes, Verushka and the Spider. Part of the reason the bad guys lose is that they don't treat people well that they work with or used to work with, Verushka. But I really do not love that the villains lose by being made really obese, telling children that it's okay to laugh at obese people. Now, the movie is an hour and 12 and a half minutes long without end credits, and an hour and 23 minutes long with them, so that's 10 minutes of end credits, so it's like a 12th of the overall movie that's end credits. That's, yeah. Or does that make it an 11th? Whatever. Were there multiple songs during the end credits? Is that why, like, there were maybe three-minute songs they had to get through? Anyway. And the first one is an hour and 10 minutes without end credits, and an hour and 17 minutes with. That brings us to the second section, which is called Notes Taken Before Watching. So I opened this section mentioning what else I've seen of the work of starring actors based on the very top ones listed on the Wikipedia starring section, not cast, and the crew, director, writer, and producers, again based on the Wikipedia listing, the section on the poster, copied in from Wikipedia. So, yeah, this so you know what the basis for comparison. Wow, that was, yeah. Now, yeah, so this is actually the first time Mike Disa, if that's how you pronounce it, has directed. You know, he helped. Yeah, I don't think the exact roles. I'm just going to mention the movies he worked on, so you get a sense of, you know, he's clearly talented. He worked on Casper. I think that's the live action, 1995 live action. Yeah, he worked on Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan. So all of these Disney movies. I forget if Casper is Disney, but whatever. And Looney Tunes back in action. So, you know, it's not like he came out of nowhere, but it is the first, you know, it's his directorial debut. So, yeah, that maybe does. Although, I mean, it's not, the first one wasn't the directorial debut for the, I forget which of them. One of them's named Corey Edwards. I forget the other one's name. They're brothers, cops. But that wasn't his directorial debut. Or was there more than one director on that? Maybe the brothers directed it together. I forget. And that one was a lot better, so it's not a complete one-to-one. Mike Disa has directed since this. It did destroy his career. And whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to you. And let's see. Yeah, and this was written by Corey Edwards, who also wrote the first one and voices Twitchy in both movies and directed the first one. Corey Edwards, that's right. And it's also written by Todd Edwards, who also wrote. You know, they were two of the writers on the first one, and the first one he voiced the Sandwich Man, and he was co-director of the, yeah. And Tony Leach also wrote both and directed the first one. It was fun to see Cheech Marin again. Cheech Marin? I don't even know how to pronounce that. Sorry. I mean, I basically only, I've seen him in Married with Children, and then the stuff that, Robert Rodriguez put him in, and let's see. Oh, yeah, he was in The Lion King, wasn't he? Voicing one of the, crap. I know what they're called. Hyenas, there it is. And Ghostbusters too, that's right. That was a amusing enough little gag in that movie. Now, oh, that's right. Hayden Panettiere voices Dot in A Bug's Life, the video game. I'm still not 100% certain if I've ever watched that movie or not, but I did play the game, and she voices that as well. That was in 1998, so her voice has changed somewhat in the 13 years. She started very young, didn't she, as an actress, I think. So, yeah. Bill Hader, I mean, Adventureland, Men in Black 3, and this. And I love his work in the Battle of Reading of Star Wars. Now, let's see. So, let's see. Right, so I listened to the commentary of the commentary track for the first movie. I should briefly say I realized that there are DVD releases of this movie that have special features. Mine came with no special features at all. Now, but yeah, the commentary for the first one, they had, let's see, yeah, they already had the Sisters of the Hood backstory, and they wanted to put it in the first one, but they couldn't quite get to. So, they were, they talk about how happy they are to be able to put it in the second movie, and they liked getting to do a team up by doing the second movie. They sound like they're really excited by it, but since making it, they, at least one of them has said, that someone else took it and ran in a different direction than we would have, something like that. Something that works really well for the comedy of the first movie is the rubber band reality, where sometimes the laws of physics apply completely, but other times you have Looney Tunes logic, and this is a world where animals talk and act like human beings. You have meta jokes, verbal comedy, pop culture references. You never know exactly what you're going to get next in the movie because of how many sources it draws from, how many different flavors it serves. Yeah, this one, I wouldn't say it does quite as well. I don't completely agree. Like, I saw at least one review where they said that almost there are multiple reviews of this where they say that basically almost all of the jokes are pop culture references, and I saw one where they said it was like 90% of them or something. I don't think that's true. It's Now, there are plenty of jokes that are not pop culture references. I don't know if they're exaggerating for effect in those reviews or what, but there's a ton of jokes that are not references to any pop culture property. Now, let's see. I already talked about Anne Hathaway and Hayden Panettiere. The first Hoodwinked movie has very distinct designs for major main characters so you can tell them apart at a glance. Does the second one form new characters? I would say so, although apparently the design for Hansel and Gretel is basically that of a Looney Tunes cartoon, but it definitely is distinct. You can tell, yeah, you can tell new characters apart at a glance. They do a great job with that. And yeah, in both movies, Twitchy, takes some coffee and it makes him move much faster. And someone has to translate him. In the first one, it's a recorder. In the second one, it's some kind of gadget. Both of the movies have a twist where we realize who the villain is, and it's a character that, yeah, I mean, yeah, in the first one, you don't know who the villain is going in. In the second one, we think that Hansel and Gretel are not villains, but victims. But it's revealed that they're basically the real villains. Excuse me. One of the strengths of the first movie is that it covers a lot of musical genres. Red sings a pop song, yodels, Granny gets a gangster rap, there's this kind of punk rock thing for the ski thing. Red is Blue is a blues song. I mean, this one, Japheth really sings the same type of song each time he appears, and there's not a lot of music in the movie itself. There's music during the credits for sure, and because Hayden Panettiere, among other things, sings, you know, in addition to acting. Yeah, you know, I guess I'm not really surprised that this one isn't a musical. I don't think it would have. I mean, certainly the movie would have been very different if it wasn't a musical. And I mean, there's nothing about the first one that means that the sequel would have to be a musical. And it kind of makes fun of the thing where a movie will stop for a music number when Red gets really frustrated with Japheth for singing instead of helping. Yeah, it really wouldn't have worked in this one if they, excuse me, if they had singing. But excuse me, I do think that it would have been nice if there was a little more variety to the music. Yeah, there's a little music during the montage where Red is looking for DCT. Anyway, so yeah, reviews make it sound like this movie has much more action than the first one. Let's see. A lot of the fun of the first one is the way the story is told instead of constant action. Yeah, I think there's more action in this one than the first one, for sure. So, let's see. I don't have a lot. Yeah, that brings us to the YouTube videos. I don't have a lot to say about. There's this 35-minute video about the first movie called Hoodwinked, the best animated movie. I enjoyed that video a lot. I don't think I'm going to talk very much about the other videos I watched. They were fine about the first and the second movie. Most of them were about the first movie. Now, let's see. Yeah, and briefly about the trailer. You know, even in the trailer, the jokes are definitely much more crude. You know, 2 or 3 nut shots in the trailer alone, and I forget if there are more than that in the movie, and, you know, several fart jokes. I did like the 3 little pigs saying we're gonna huff and puff and blow your house up. And this was a short section because there was not very much. I guess the first movie isn't really popular enough, whether hated or liked. Anyway, final section, critic sites, IMDb and Wikipedia. Now, wow, it only has 11% on the tomato meter. And yeah, because only 7 rated it fresh and 57 rated it rotten. And it really is this thing of like, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them think that it deserves an 11 out of 100, but it does, yeah. Let's see, I don't think there are that many. I'm going to briefly skim the reviews. Let's see. Yeah, several of them say, you know, the first one's much more clever. The film's ending sets things up for another sequel, and that worries me. Do you realize how many fairy tales can be hoodwinked? Nah. Yeah, I think this sums it up pretty nicely. A crazed attention deficit disorder blitz of one-liners that sees Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf chase evil fairy tale characters through a mad world in search of a secret truffle cake recipe. That's a good way to put it. Excuse me. Excuse me. An annoying, exceptionally unengaging bowl of noise that lampoons broadly and poorly, Hoodwinked 2 is even more dispiriting than its narrative failings render it, insofar as it seems to evince no real reason to exist. Very well put. I personally thought, you know, the animation in this is much better than the first. I'm not sure I really. I'm not that good of a judge of, and I don't watch very many animated movies. I watch live action movies that have animation in them, sure, but I very rarely watch fully animated movies. So I have no idea if the level of quality of animation in this movie is equivalent to other 2011, but it's definitely superior to the first one. They were given more money. None of these actors seem to be having much fun. Some of these reviewers actually say it's better than the first one. I 100% disagree, but they're entitled to their opinion. Like I said, the animation is definitely better. I mean, I can imagine that maybe the format appeals more to certain people, and that's not, you know, no one's right or wrong in that. But just to be clear, it's not that the format of the first one appeals to me more than the format of this one. I've watched far more movies similar to this one that I loved than similar to the first one. The first one is not just great because, you know, I don't love the first one just because it does something difficult to do really well. I just think that you know, I guess I mean, among other things, the writing is more clever, the jokes are better, and more well delivered in the first one. I mean, and part of it is, at the end of the day, in the first movie, you have a lot of really big surprises, where in this one, I mean, there are not that many new characters, and I'm not sure there was really that much in this movie with the characters we already know that surprised me, other than them making Wolf stupid, which was a bad surprise. The new characters, a lot of them were basically what I expected them to be. And yeah, in the first movie, you know, it's constantly surprising you. You never know what you're going to get in the first movie. And in this one, too much of the time, it is very easy to predict. Now, let's Now, that pretty much. So, I am not getting enough sleep these days. Okay, that brings us to Hoodwinked 2, Hood vs. Evil is all sugar rush. Its potential to charm adults and their young charge is routinely drowned out by a bigger, faster, jokier ethos. In which the animators ditch structural ambition in favor of straight-up action spoofery that's all freneticism and very little cleverness. Infantile humor, unrelenting wisecracks and pop culture references, and flat characters who don't engage one's eyes or interest. The movie can't be saved from its own vices of manic pacing and tediously pro forma pop culture jokes. Despite ample proof to the contrary, Hoodwinked 2, Hood vs. Evil, was not written by the punaholic Carrie Bradshaw. Now, you can tell that the writers just gave up. Yeah, this sums it up really well. Well, I will say that Hoodwinked 2, Hood vs. Evil, was, I keep mispronouncing. See, I'm pronouncing it like a 2 instead of, no, I'm not gonna bother. Just, I know I'm not pronouncing yeah, the title properly. Anyway, was a lot better than I was expecting, but it still wasn't very good. Now, this, sorry, this is a Rotten Tomatoes user review. I really like Hoodwink 1 and 2, but maybe it's just a girl heroine thing. I can totally understand that. Let's see, let me think. There was something, but I can't remember right now. But I don't think I completely finished my thought about. Let's see, where was I? The thing with one of the things I love about the first one is that it takes a story that everyone know. You know, if you live anywhere in the West, you've heard the story of Red Riding Hood. You know, a lot of people are, have it read to them as children, and even if you've never, like, cultural osmosis, you know the basic notes of the story, and taking that and changing all the little, like, at the end of the day, the first movie still includes Red going to, she's not referred to as Red Riding Hood, she's just referred to as Red, wearing her Red Riding Hood, going to her grandmother's house with a basket of goodies where the wolf has already, is posing as her grandmother while her grandmother, you know, is currently incapacitated, and then a woodsman, bursts in and starts waving an axe, you know. So the if you were to, like, if you hadn't heard the original story and you just watched this movie, they hit all of the major beats, and they, the child friendly ones, obviously in some of the stories the wolf eats, the actually, never mind, I guess in all the stories the wolf eats the the grandmother, and maybe also Red, and then, the happy ending is that the woodsman comes in and kills the wolf, cuts him open, and both the grandmother and Red were still alive in there. Where the original scary ending is that no one comes by and saves them, and both of them get eaten and die. But yeah, like, it hits all of the major beats, but it changes so much that it's like, I really love that. I love when, because suddenly all of it means something else, and it's this. One of the things about the story is that the original story was there to basically scare, you know, scare young women into, once they start falling in love with boys, they have to be careful because some boys are like wolves and they will destroy them, or, I mean, it's not literally eat, but, they will do something horrible to them. And I appreciate that, and for sure, I don't want someone to go out there and not be aware of dangers once they, you know, but I don't think that's as necessary anymore as what the first Hoodwinked changes that story into, which is empowering young women, saying you can save the day. The Red goes from a victim into the hero. The If not for her, things wouldn't have worked out in the first movie. Boingo would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that meddling Red. And then you have, the aspect that the first movie points out, that witness statements are notoriously unreliable. Basically the human brain was not, the way we evolved was not, it, the traits that were selected for was not being able to perfectly memorize, important details. Excuse me. It was to quickly perceive things that might be dangerous. So, excuse me, if, like, yeah, I think I'm gonna move on from there, but yeah, it's, and that's the thing. Like, this one isn't one specific fairy tale that's being told in an unexpected way. It's just, I'm not saying it doesn't take it. The central fairy tale is Hansel and Gretel, and the wolf. Sorry, the witch. Wow, the witch who lives in a gingerbread house and is going to cook them. You know, And again, it changes, that takes what you expect and and subverts your expectations. But where the first one did it with, like, I mean, by the end of the first movie, like, if you went into it thinking that someone was going to be a good guy, they probably end up being a bad guy. If you went into it expecting someone to be a victim, they probably end up a hero. And if you went into it expecting someone to be, really, really dangerous and scary, they're probably harmless. I'm not saying it 100% checks out all the time, but I'm saying the first time you watch the first one, you don't know what you're going to get. And in this one, I mean, we're not that surprised by the giant, for example, or the ogre. Let's see. I mean, the pigs, fair enough. The pigs in this are all evil and, really know how to defend themselves and such. But other than, and Hansel and Gretel turn out to be evil, not innocent, and the witch is actually a good person who couldn't, she had trouble coping with being the second best instead of the very best. And, so yeah, there's some expectation subversion for sure, but yeah, it's just not the same. At the end of the day, that it probably would have been best if there was only the one movie, maybe spiritual successors, and then maybe like make a video game sequel or something. Because in a video game, it's perfectly fine. There are games that do it. I realize that. I guess all three Max Payne games, huh? All three Max Payne games go, jump in the chronology and such. And, sometimes you'll realize something was a different thing than you thought it was the first time, and that kind of thing. But honestly, there are probably a lot of games that play around with chronology, but I'm saying I feel like they could you could make a co-op game. I've heard there's like an iOS game. I haven't been able to find it. I might play it if I could, but I mean, not these days because of carpal tunnel, but I'd be happy to play it at a later date. But I don't know. I guess they eventually just get rid of those. I don't know. Whatever. Right. The thing that what I wanted to say was, uh, I mean, I'm thinking maybe something along the lines of a Psychonauts or Good versus, sorry, Beyond Good and Evil. Sorry, Prince of Persia. Uh, let's see. I mean, yeah, not one of the first three, but any of the rest of them. That sort of thing. Something along those lines of a game. And yeah, if you went by something like Psychonauts, there you've got disguise kind of thing. You've got someone who can jump from far up and float slowly down. The that kind of thing, and every so often you need to use a different character or something, and their special ability will be extremely useful, something like that. I guess I should just briefly say, when I say Psychonauts, what I mean is the gameplay. I'm not saying that I want a good, sorry, I'm not saying I want a hoodwinked type. I want hoodwinked in the Psychonauts universe, or I want hoodwinked and then the Psychonauts core concept. What I mean is the gameplay. If you ignore the concept of Psychonauts and just say, well, different levels, sometimes you have to, for example, sometimes you have to do a lot of platforming. I feel like that would make a lot of sense for Red and Granny, you know, and you could have vehicle-specific stuff for Granny, and then Red, whatever. There's various stuff, and then at other points of Psychonauts, you have to I'm going to go with Disguise. I'm not going to say exactly what it is for those who haven't played that game. If you haven't played that game and it sounds good, I recommend it. There's definitely frustrating elements to it, but overall, yeah, I really love it. I think the first time when I reviewed it, I think I might have undersold it some, but I think I did say all the positives as well. I might have just played up some of the negatives. I might have upplayed them some. I think I might have upplayed them some. I don't think I downplayed them. Now let's see. But yeah, I don't think that making a movie sequel to Hoodwinked 1 made that much sense. Yeah, this is a pretty decent. Yeah, this is a Metacritic Pro review, professional review. This person gave it a 50 out of 100. Mostly Hoodwinked 2 is playing to young video gamers with overblown action sequences and slangy tune. That's very true. The need for a sequel was zero, proved by the fact that the characters end the movie pretty much exactly where they started it. That's very true. Like, what is the difference? Excuse me. They're at the end. They're working for the HEA just like they were at the start. I guess Red is not gonna go back and get more training, so she finished that, which I mean, yeah, I, it's very true. It would have been, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Here's one critic who says that the spider is too much. The very small children in the audience are going to be scared. That's true. I guess I'm not sure I would show this to someone who was less than 10 years old, maybe a little older. And I get how that is too. A lot of people would take like 7-year-olds to it, and I don't blame them. At least not if they hadn't watched it already. But I do realize if they had made a video game sequel, that probably wouldn't have gotten that much money either. Nah, right, that brings us to IMDb. Yeah, so the tagline is "Not all fairy tales go by the book." And let's see, I'm just briefly gonna. I appreciate that the some people went to a lot of trouble noting all the violence in the movie, and it's like if you read this and you don't know the context, it sounds just so absurd. I mean, I guess it is absurd even when watching the movie, but it is less absurd when you know the context. A giant boy and a giant girl eat magical candies until they blow up to the size of a building. A rabbit is seen being handcuffed and driven away in a police car. A girl shouts at a wolf. I'm not sure why that's... Oh, right, this is the... Is this still the violence section? It's not the profanity section because it's before profanity. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, and someone went and, you know, noted all the name calling in the movie. Now, so yeah, let's see. The votes, it had 20% of the votes are 5, 16.3 or 6, 15 or 4, 10 or 3, 6.8 or 2, and 8.7 or 1. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can see giving it only a 1 if you just really can't. Yeah. Now, let's see. I guess... Yeah, if you freeze frame the film when the typed recipe card is on screen, you'll see that apart from the secret ingredient, macadamia nuts, the Norwegian Black Forest Feather Cake Truffle Divine contains 3 Tibetan cocoa sticks, 40 cups zebra striped sugar cane, 5 gallons red root molasses, half a teaspoon of Amazonian grape juice, flour, 26 cups Sleeping Beauty's morning coffee, Rapunzel's organic strawberry and cream conditioner, Snow White's apple, Soylent Green, which has been crossed out in pen and replaced with people, and 1 bowl Three Bears porridge. Wow. That's, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Now, let's see. Yeah, so that... Yeah, so Jim Belushi was replaced by Martin Short. That's a bit of a lateral move. Okay, I'm gonna real quick skim the... Let's see. Skim Wikipedia, because I have not read any of this. Let's see. And this was David Ogden Stiers plays Nicky Flippers in both movies. This was his final voice acting role in an animated film before his death in 2018. Oh wow, Kirk is actually named Kirk Kirkendall, apparently. I thought that was, like, in the first one there at the end, the The guy, I mean, he kept getting his name wrong anyway. So when he said Mr. Kirkendall, I thought he had gotten his name wrong again. Now, let's see. While most of the cast reprised their roles from the first film, Hayden Panettiere replaced Anne Hathaway in the role of Red, while Martin Short replaced Jim Belushi in the role of Kirk the Woodsman. Corey Edwards explained the role of Red was recast due to the recent success of Hathaway's career, saying, "It's clear to me that her involvement in the first film was a nice favor for Harvey, and the last of her little girl roles. You can see how a sequel to an animated film is not in her trajectory anymore." Regarding Belushi's departure from the series, Edwards explained he was never really comfortable with the accent for the Woodsman. He wanted to help us out and love the film, but he kept saying, "I'm not an accent guy," so he had a hard time connecting to that character. Now, whereas in the first film, the voice of the character Twitchy was created simply by speeding up the recording by 50%, various speeds were used in this film, and occasionally the dialogue was only pitched higher without being sped up at all. The difference in Twitchy's voice was immediately noticed by fans after the release of the film's trailer, causing Twitchy's voice actor Corey Edwards to relate that while he had explained to the new filmmakers how the voice was created in the first film, and would remark on how the character sounded different when invited to screenings, from the many blank stares and the end result, nobody really cared. I'm not sure I have a good enough ear for that sort of thing to notice. I guess I can kind of tell thinking about it. Now, let's see. Director Mike Disa explained that in designing the locations for the film, they considered the idea of a modern fairy tale in modern times, asking themselves, what would a fairy tale city look like having evolved for hundreds of years? What would their buildings look like? How would they get around? And saying, we sat down and worked out the technology and mythology of the world of Hoodwinked that they hadn't really established in the first film. I think they did a good job. I thought I liked the you literally have the beanstalk leading up to the giant, and you have the what was it, Dark Castle Towers, and then you also have a regular city, and Red is going around questioning woodland critters in the city. I thought they did a good job of it. Didn't feel dissonant. Okay, I am skimming through the spoiler. Let's see. Yeah, so the Edwards brothers and Tony Leach were not as involved with this one as they were with the first one, which frustrated, what does that say, Corey Edwards, I think that says, and Patrick Warburton, who said the film has less of a soul than the first one. I feel like the original guys got screwed. Now, working on the sequel left such a weak impression on him that only 2 years after the film's release, he owned to barely even remembering the production process. Okay, I'm gonna read aloud this is the description of the iOS video game. Yeah, iPhone and iPad. An adventure game called Red's Escape, which includes some of the characters from the movie, was made for the iPhone and iPad and is centered on the heroine of the movie, Red. She must avoid enemies and score points as she climbs the different stages of the witch's tower. Oh, that makes sense, yeah. Red. Then why is it called Red's Escape if she's climbing the tower? Isn't it the... Shouldn't it be the ascent instead of escape? Anyway, Red ascends the tower using her... crap, sorry. Using her belt, which is used like a grappling hook to grab objects and swing her to new heights. Along the way, various enemies and obstacles attempt to derail her from gun-toting piggies and sharp spikes to a maniacal witch. Chasing Red all the while is Gretel, a later hosen-clad, pastry-fueled behemoth who wants nothing more than to crush the life out of her. Sounds like fun. Sounds like makes a lot of sense the way they approach the design. Now, I copied in all of the reviews linked on IMDb as external, and let's see, yeah, there's 79 in total, but I copied in 37, so I guess the other 42 were dead links, not in English, that sort of thing. And I'm gonna go to the, let's see. But yeah, I can definitely see how Anne Hathaway's career had changed somewhat between, I mean, when was it she recorded for the, because the first one was supposed to be, again, I think it was supposed to come out in like 2003 or 4. They made it in 2002, which is part of why there's a couple of XXX references. I mean, Granny is basically based very heavily on, you know, the character XXX. Now, let's see. Like, if XXX was a grandmother and keeping that lifestyle secret, that's what you get. You get Granny in these movies, and especially in the first one. Let's see. But yeah, Anne Hathaway's career changing between these. Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna try to avoid too much dead air as I go through the list of. Wow, that's still a lot. I'm on the 47th of 129 noted sequence. No, sorry, sections noted to go into. I'm gonna try to avoid too much dead air. Let's see. Yeah, that person seemed to also like the Billy Goat singing and getting hurt. I think this does a pretty good job of. Okay, so this describes about the humor. Absolute. Yeah, see, I don't agree that it's quite as bad, but anyway, absolutely nothing works here in terms of humor. But then they go on to say, Hoodwinked 2, Hood vs. Evil relies on tired puns, unfunny in-jokes, and juvenile slapstick. I think that's a pretty good way to sum up. Yeah, that's a lot of it is that. Yeah. Now, let's see. So, yeah, the movie follows the old Zucker-Abrahams-Zucker formula by throwing as many jokes at the viewer as possible. Oh, my neck. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop recording pretty soon. Ah, ish. Okay, let's see. It's really wild to me how many people either say that the first one wasn't good either, or say that this is as good or in some ways better, and or, sorry, some of the people saying the first one wasn't good also say this is about the same. I'd say in most ways this is, you know, yeah, in most ways this is inferior to the first one. I would say the only way that this is better. Huh. Okay, so this one ends the review by saying, but the biggest sin here is making the protagonist dull, dull, dull. It would be kind to say that the whole project is half-baked. It is, yeah, she is really boring. That's very true. Yeah. And, let's see. Now. Joan Cusack instills the witch with the same manic kookiness she brought to Addams Family Values. Yes, 100% agreed, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, this was a little. Let's see. Yeah, this one says, oh, some of these are recast, and then it says, although much of the original cast was reunited, it's most. There's only two of them who don't return. You know, so there's two who don't return, but the ones who do return, Wolf, Granny, Nikki Flippers, Boingo. Let's see. There's the Twitchy. That's at least five. Yeah, Boingo only has a small role, but still, there's way more who return than do not return. Now, I think I'm going to. Okay, so I'm almost through the. Hayden Panettiere now voices the Ellen Page light post-feminist Red. That's a pretty good. Yeah, who leaves her training at the Sisterhood, a Food Network vision of Pai Mei's temple from Kill Bill Volume 2. That's yeah. That's well put. That's more aptly, cleverly written than anything in the movie itself. That's a really great way to give a great review. Prove how much better comedy writing can be than the movie itself. Excuse me. Sequels, franchises, remakes, and reimaginings seem to be the scourge of cinema audiences everywhere, and based on the current slate of features in or about to be in theaters, rightfully so. And then they mention Scream, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Fast and Furious, Pirates of the Caribbean, Hangover, Transformers, X-Men, Brighton Rock, Arthur, Burke and Hare, Kung Fu Panda, Cars, and Hoodwinked. Ouch. No mention of the MCU? When this movie premiered, they had 4 movies out and a 5th one on the way. And no mention? That's more movies than some of the other series. Yeah. Anyway. Let's see. Yeah, the Hangover was only on part 2. Anyway. Let's see. I am almost on the way through. Oh, right, crap. Yeah, I'll get to it in a little bit. Okay, so right. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, there's only 41 reviews on IMDb. User reviews, I mean. That's not very many. That is very, yeah. That really tells you, that's not even that not that many people love the movie. That's that most people don't even care about the movie. Most people didn't even care enough. Most people didn't even hate it enough that they went on IMDb. Like there are much older movies with way more reviews. Now I'm gonna real quick see if let's see. Let's see, there's the that's right, yeah. Okay, so there are 14 sections left with spoilers, and I think, oh boy, I'm just really quickly gonna skim for now, and I think, yeah, that's gonna be it. So, in closing, I liked some of it, but it really was just, I'm not unhappy that I watched it. It satisfied my curiosity, and there's a chance I'm gonna, you know, I wouldn't say that it's impossible that I'll ever watch it again. It's definitely, I know there are way better animated movies out there. Don't worry, you don't have to, if you want to give me recommendations in the comments, you can. I'm not promising I'll watch, I don't watch very many animated movies. You know, the first one I watched because of the concept, you know, the concept completely sold me. And I used to watch Disney animated stuff in the 90s because I was a kid. And yeah, you know, I have watched a few of the more recent animated Disney ones, but anyway, the yeah, it's not really, it's not as bad as it's sometimes described, I would say. It's not completely without merit, but it is definitely a step down in most ways. The really the only way that it's not is basically the animation, you know. And I think a lot of the time the movie is hurt by the what was it that person called it, the Abraham Zucker approach of constantly they're just throwing as many jokes as they can at you, because a lot of them end up not working. I think that might, and for sure, I would say that you can tell in Patrick Warburton's performance that he wasn't as excited about doing this movie as he was the first. You know, when the first one, you can really tell he's having a blast. And in this one, it does kind of feel like he's not really that interested. I can imagine, just for what they did to his character, it really must be frustrating to, yeah. I think Hayden Panettiere was fine. I really don't think she was that bad. I like Martin Short fine as Kirk. Um, I think, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say, really. I think that the movie did a fine job of keeping the pace up and keeping things, you know, there are so many different settings. The mystery keeps, like, there are a lot of twists that you don't, there are a lot of little things you don't see coming. You know, the fact that I like that Boingo is still doing evil stuff. You know, he's still, the bunny just really loves doing evil things that involve, you know, baked goods. What do you want? You know, the fact that he's locked up in there doesn't mean that, yeah. And let's see, I liked a lot of the action, but then I mean you know, I play a lot of video games, so yeah, it probably is. Yeah, I think that's pretty much that. That's everything I had to say about it, and I let me think if there's any last little quick thing to mention. I think that's it, yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed watching. I mean, I'm not sure I can really say that I enjoy. Let's see. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I didn't hate every moment